Hey guys, so I'm back. Today I wanted to talk about chronic illness, dysautonomia, NCS, POTS, whatever you may want to call it, NCS, and Ney-Sayers. Recently I got a comment on a previous video from someone who was basically telling me that I was overthinking my symptoms and that it really wasn't as bad as I was saying it was. And it was irritating, but fairly expected, only because I expected at some point when I started this channel that I was going to get bad comments. So it wasn't all that surprising. However, it did remind me of something I'd wanted to talk about, which was chronic illness and naysayers. And no matter what you have, whether you have early osteoporosis, or you have endometriosis, or you have NCS, or you have God knows what, you're always going to have those people that look down on you and say, well, you just need to get some rest, or, you know, you're too young to be sick, or any of that kind of stuff. And it's so disheartening for people that they are in pain and they're suffering, and the people around them are ignoring them or otherwise playing down what they're going through. And that can be so incredibly frustrating. And something that happens is that a lot of the people who do that are friends and family, which can make it so isolating. So I wanted to talk about that, because you should always be able to turn to your family and your friends for help when you need it. And having them kind of naysay what you're going through can really hurt your mental state, because you feel like you have no one to turn to. And when I first got diagnosed, I actually had a pretty good support system, but there was a couple people in my life that didn't really know what to do with me. And it was a terrible feeling to know that they cared about me, but they didn't necessarily understand what I was going through. So there was a lot of comments that were said that were otherwise uncalled for. But a lot of it is they don't understand. And so part of kind of stopping the miscommunication within the family or within the friends or coworkers, whatever it is really educating them. You know, this is me, this is what I have, this is how it affects me, and you know, make analogies. You know, having NCS is like having the flu all the time and being dehydrated, and you know, however you want to explain it, but trying to reach out and bridge the gap really helps, because they can kind of understand to a point what it is you're going through. But that way you really at least try to explain, and so at that point you've made the first step, and if they still decide to be ignorant, then that's on them. But at that point you've done everything you can to make sure that they try to understand. As far as random strangers, there's not a lot you can do about it, but there is a way to go about it in which you don't let them ruin your whole day. Because the first time I went out on my own after being in the hospital, I was praying, I was like, I just want a normal day. I just want to have a normal day. I'm just gonna do what I always do and go from there. And it was really hard, because I was so exhausted and so bone tired, and it was hard to walk, and I felt like if I walked too far I would get lightheaded, and I couldn't really go anywhere in one bout. I had to kind of leapfrog around my campus. And I had grown afraid of stairs after my diagnosis, because they were the surest way to make me lightheaded, so I avoided them. So I took the elevator from the first floor to the second floor, and so I was already feeling self-conscious about it. And then there was these two girls that got in with me into the elevator, and they both look at me and don't really say anything for a really awkward minute. And then they're like, you know, this is going to the second floor, right? And I said, yes. And the look of judgment on their face was just so shocking to me because I'd never experienced that before. So it was a little bit of a shock to kind of be used to being a healthy person and then all of a sudden being on the other end of discrimination in a way. There was also a day where I had decided to go to the grocery store with my family, and one of my cousins, who's a little younger, was wanting to play, and so I was in my little scooter buggy because I was having a bad body day, and so he sat on my lap and he drove and we were having a grand old time. And what I heard about later, because I don't look at people. I mind my own business. I'm not looking for people to stare at me because they're going to. And part of going through your life and not letting them affect you is not to be looking for them. Do what you want to do. If they're going to stare, let them stare. And everyone's going to have their own opinions, but they don't have to affect your life in a way where you feel bad about yourself because you've done nothing wrong. But my aunt, my cousin's mother, later told me that someone, an older woman, had said something along the lines of, well, she shouldn't be able to play on that. Play on it. Huh, cool. But my aunt, being my aunt, stood up for me and said something along the lines of, she's well and truly disabled and she has a condition that can stop her heart. Is that disabled enough for you? And so the woman was properly chastised. But that's just a couple examples of things you kind of run into when you have dysautonomia. And, you know, a lot of people try to avoid being out in public places or avoid using the scooters because they don't want to get stared at and they don't want to hear the comments. And I understand that. And I've felt those feelings where you don't want to be like that, but you can't let them control your life because you can't hide forever. You know, you need to decide that you're going to live your life, and the naysayers can say what they want to say. And what are they going to do? You're never going to see them again. They're not going to affect you in any kind of way. And anything that they say to your face is coming from just being snotty and thinking that they're better than you, and they're not. And realizing that they're doing this because they think that they somehow are better than you just makes me want to laugh. Because if you're such a rude person that you would go up to someone and say, well, you don't really need the wheelchair, or you don't really need the cane, or whatever, it's like, what do you know, guy? So don't let them get to you. It's not worth it. And it's really hard in the beginning. You kind of have to grow a thick skin. But at the point that you quit looking for people to stare at you, your life is so much easier. Because let them stare. You know, what are they going to do? You go on with your life, you do what you want to do, and they can all just be snotty over there. So, don't let people and their opinions affect you, because at the end of the day, they are absolutely nothing. Their comments are nothing. Just be yourself. Do what you want to do. And don't let other people stop you because they're just ignorant or bitter or just rude, mean people. So don't let the naysayers get you down.